Can modern genetics confirm a 4,000-year-old genealogy? Do Jews and Arabs really share common ancestors? Today, we're examining how cutting-edge DNA research intersects with Genesis 10, and the results might surprise you. Science and Scripture are having a fascinating conversation about the origins of nations. Acts 17:26 in the Berean Standard Bible declares, "From one man he made every nation of men, that they should inhabit the whole earth, and he determined their appointed times and the boundaries of their lands." Modern genetics confirms this fundamental biblical truth. All humanity shares common ancestry. But can we trace the specific lineages of Shem's sons? Let's start with what genetics can and cannot tell us. DNA studies can show shared ancestry, estimate when populations diverged, and track migration patterns. They cannot prove specific individuals existed or validate exact genealogies. With that understanding, the correlations between genetic findings and biblical accounts are remarkable. Y-chromosome studies, which trace paternal lineages, show Middle Eastern populations sharing haplogroup J. This genetic marker originated approximately 30,000 years ago in the Middle East and divides into two main branches, J1 and J2, that spread throughout the region. The distribution patterns align surprisingly well with Semitic populations described in Genesis. J1 is particularly interesting. It's found in high frequencies among both Jewish populations, especially Kohanim, priestly, lineages, and Arabian populations. The coalescence age, when these lineages shared a common ancestor, dates to approximately 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. This time frame aligns remarkably with the biblical chronology for Eber, the common ancestor of Hebrews and many Arab tribes. Studies of Assyrian Christians show distinct genetic markers, setting them apart from surrounding populations, despite millennia of living as minorities. Their DNA shows continuity with ancient Mesopotamian populations, supporting their claim of descent from ancient Assyrians. They've maintained genetic distinctiveness through cultural practices that discouraged intermarriage, preserving an ancient genetic signature. Iranian populations, particularly in regions historically associated with Elam, show genetic continuity stretching back thousands of years. While mixed with later Persian, Arab, and Turkic elements, the base population shows indigenous continuity. This supports the biblical account of Elam's descendants merging with, rather than being replaced by, later peoples. The Samaritans provide a fascinating case study. Genetic analysis shows they're not just Jews who intermarried with Assyrian colonists, as some historical sources suggest. They maintain distinct ancient Levantine ancestry, possibly preserving lineages from the northern kingdom of Israel. Their unique genetic profile demonstrates how biblical populations can maintain identity across millennia. Here's where it gets complex. Populations have mixed throughout history. Pure racial categories don't exist genetically. What we find instead are gradient patterns, overlapping clusters, and shared ancestry in proportions varying by geography and history. This actually aligns with the biblical account. Genesis 10 describes the origin of nations. But the Bible consistently shows these nations intermarrying, migrating, and mixing. Linguistic genetics, studying how languages and genes correlate, provides another confirmation layer. Semitic language speakers show genetic similarities, distinguishing them from Indo-European or African language families. The correlation isn't perfect. Languages can be adopted, but the general pattern supports the Table of Nations framework. What about challenges? Some genetic patterns don't align neatly with traditional interpretations. For instance, Ethiopian Jews show primarily African rather than Middle Eastern ancestry, though they've maintained Jewish religious practices for millennia. This reminds us that religious and cultural identity transcends genetics. Ruth the Moabite became part of Israel, and Moses married a Cushite woman. Modern Jewish populations show approximately 50–80% Middle Eastern ancestry, depending on the community, with European, African, or Asian admixture based on their diaspora history. Palestinians, Jordanians, and Lebanese show similar ancient Levantine ancestry. Genetically, these populations historically considered enemies are cousins, exactly as Genesis describes. DNA research doesn't prove the Bible faith isn't built on haplogroups, but it does demonstrate that biblical genealogies preserve authentic ancient population memories. The Table of Nations isn't mythology, but a remarkably accurate framework for understanding human diversity. Science, properly understood, doesn't contradict Scripture but illuminates it in ways ancient readers couldn't imagine. This concludes our journey through Shem's lineage. We've traced 5 sons across history, from ancient tablets to modern DNA, from dead languages to living communities. The Table of Nations isn't just ancient history, it's the story of billions of people alive today. As you encounter names from Genesis 10 in Scripture, remember, these aren't just names, but nations, peoples, and individuals made in God's image. Thank you for joining this series. Until next time, keep studying, keep learning, and God bless. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.